I want to talk about the Boston Celtics today. The Boston Celtics are currently 9-8 in this early stretch of the regular season. There's some good things to say about the Celtics, a lot of bad to say about the Celtics. To say that through the first quarter of the season, would they be a game over 500? I would say I'm quite a bit surprised. Not all the way surprised. Their 9-8 record is good for being 10th, so they do have a play-in spot. The Celtics being a game over 500 at this point in the season is pretty good, with all the things considered going into the year for the Celtics for sure. Now, of course, many of you probably saw the clip I posted months, maybe a month or so before the season started. It was going to be a long season for Celtics fans. Of course, addressing the elephant in the room, the Celtics are going to be without Jason Tatum until possibly March. And of course, many people will say it's going to be fairy telling if the Celtics will forego him coming back if he's ready to go by then, depending on where the Celtics are in terms of the standings. Still plenty of games left to be played. I think the Celtics are a good enough team to either have a play-in spot or even just be able to make it to the playoffs with the way the team's currently constructed. Do I think they'll get very far? Not really, especially the way some of these guys have been playing. First, addressing the elephant in the room, with Jason Tatum, the way I'm looking at it, if he's ready to go before the season's over, I'd still say bring him back regardless of what the team looks like, how the team is at that point in the year. At that point, it's going to be near the end of the year anyway. If you're not going to be fighting for a postseason spot, still let him get his in-game reps, get his legs under him once again. It's good seeing him out there with the team, whether it's on the road trips or whether it's back at home in Boston. Seeing him on the sidelines, still being present, still being seen. That's the important thing. Bittersweet because you're hoping you get ever so close to him being able to put on that Celtics uniform, try to bring this team back to the promised land. The team on the court currently, the team could even be in a better position. There's definitely been some tough losses. They lost on a go-ahead basket for Jusuf Nurkic against the Jazz a couple of weeks ago. They lost the opening night against Philadelphia with Tyrese Maxey and VJ Edgecombe going crazy in Edgecombe's debut. There's been some nights where the Celtics could not get it going offensively. They're second in the league in opponent points per game, so the defense is still there, at least the defensive effort is still there. And of course, you're going to run in some of the bigger issues. How's this team going to look like with Jaylen Brown being at the helm, inserted into that 1A role where opposing defenses are going to be solely trying to look and lock in on him? How is the team going to look with a bunch of their championship core being traded away in Porzingis, Drew Holiday, as well as Al Horford taking off? And what were you going to get to see from the rest of this team? And guys are going to be able to step up, and how somebody like Anthony Simons they brought in going into the season. I would say first, Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown has been awesome and fantastic for the Celtics. He's been exactly what the Celtics needed out of their best player this season. Looking at Jaylen Brown's season so far in 17 games, he's averaging just under 28 points a game, 6 rebounds and 4 assists. He's shooting nearly 51% from the field and nearly 35% from 3. A mid-range demon. He's been so good in the in-between area when it comes off of dribble handoffs and pick and rolls, lace down those mid-range shots. Really has been a key factor of why he's able to increase his scoring to a career high level. I don't have the stats in front of me, but I think he's number 3 or number 2 in terms of mid-range scoring or mid-range efficiency. I think KD's ahead of him if he is number 2. Regardless of that, on top of the heavier workload with especially guys around him struggling a bit, the fact that his turnover numbers haven't been as crazy or has taken a huge spike, even though he's had some games where he's turned the ball over quite a bit. It's to be expected with that much usage, the fact that you've lost key pieces as well as Jason Tatum and taking a lot more on the ball responsibilities. Jaylen Brown has been the engine that the Celtics need to continue to salvage what they can out of this season with all things considered. I remember doing an article a few years back, I believe during the Celtics' championship run, when it came to discussing Jaylen Brown and how good of a player he really was and people were underappreciating him during the postseason. I look at Jaylen Brown's numbers, and his numbers he's putting up right now are just as good as I anticipated they would be if he ever had a prolonged period of time without Jason Tatum on the team for whatever reason. He's moving around with the ball with a lot more determination I've seen over the course of this season. A lot more straight line drives and using his body to get to the basket. He's attacking the rim. He's being able to kill teams in the mid-range, as well as his three-point shooting has still been pretty good. I hope just this point moving forward, Jaylen Brown continues to be on this trajectory as a difference maker for the Celtics team. He's a proven champion. There's so many things you can say about Jaylen Brown, but this season in particular feels a little bit different. It really feels like he's starting to complete himself as a player, having that mindset of being the best player on the floor at any given moment. Somebody else I make a note of is Peyton Pritchard. Peyton Pritchard is having a career season. It's his first season being the everyday starter for the Celtics, coming into question at the beginning of the season when the Celtics brought in Anthony Simons. Pritchard is second on the team in scoring behind Jaylen Brown. Obviously, it's not as big of a jump in terms of the scoring department as I would have anticipated, but Peyton Pritchard is somebody who is a streaky player. He's somebody who can give you 40, making 8 or 9 threes while being undersized in this league of giants that is today's NBA. NBA. He's somebody who hasn't been backing down, and he's been trying to give his best effort every single game. So it's been real fun to see Peyton Pritchard grow, especially from somebody who wanted to get traded after the 2022 NBA season. I was anticipating a bigger scoring output. He's shooting 33% from three, and while that's still pretty good, he is a career 40% three-point shooter. So if he was shooting even at his career percentage, that's the difference between somebody like Peyton Pritchard averaging around 15, 16 points a game, or somebody like Peyton Pritchard averaging 20 to 22 points a game. And he's shooting the same rate of three-pointers. This season so far and last season, he was shooting nearly 8 threes a game. It was good to see somebody like Peyton Pritchard isn't solely relying on his three-point shooting, even though he's still shooting well. A bit of a down year so far in terms of the three-point shooting department. Somebody who's shooting a career 40% from three. Him dialing it back just a little bit, or him not being as efficient. While it's not ideal, you know, it's kind of hard to keep up that level of consistency, especially when you're taking on a bigger role. Speaking of taking on a bigger role is somebody like Derek White. And Derek White was supposed to be looked at as that number 2 guy. It was supposed to be Jason Tatum's out, everybody else moves up. And Derek White has not been good so far. Now, I would say in terms of offense, because when people were anticipating the Celtics going into the year, Derek White was going to take that next step, or he was going to take that step up. He was going to be the person to step up for the Celtics, second in command in a sense, because Derek White, very good basketball player. This season, he has not been good on the offensive end. His points per game is still around what he's been doing the last couple of seasons, but the efficiency's really taken a nosedive so far. He's getting those 15 points a game on 15 shots a game. He's shooting 35% from the field and shooting a career low from three. And this is someone who's taking 9 attempts nearly a game. The 3 full seasons as Derek White has been a Celtic, he's shot 38% from three or better. Do I think Derek White is going to continue to play this bad? No. I think there's going to be that stretch of games where he is going to be on fire. I think Derek White is too good of a player to be playing this bad, and it's with him playing this bad that the Celtics are what they are. Imagine if Derek White was even playing up to his career standards, the Celtics would be in an even better position so far. Anthony Simons, the Celtics acquisition over the offseason from the Drew Holiday trade, it's been hit or miss in certain games because there's some games that he's been able to pour it on and look like himself, like he was in Portland, and then there's other games where he's kind of done really nothing. It looks like there's times that he's looked lost. I think there was even a game not too long ago where like you only had like 11 minutes or something like that, you know, as a six man. But so far he's shooting his best from three in the last few years. He's shooting over 40% at the moment, even though he's taking far less shots. Now, of course, that was to be expected coming off the bench for a Celtic team compared to being a starter for the Portland Trailblazers. So I'm not going to get on Anthony Simons too much. I wouldn't like to see him probably start a couple of games. This is the first time in about 3 or 4 seasons that he's been a guy that comes off the bench. Somebody who probably looked at his situation as being a starting level player for the rest of his career, now being relegated back to the bench. There has to be a feeling out process in that. I just think the Celtics were probably just waiting for the right moment and be able to send him elsewhere, because that was definitely something the Celtics were looking at over the course of the offseason, probably when they initially got him. I just think it's a matter of time, but he has been a joy to watch when he has been able to play well. And again, in the opportunity for sure. But like he can give you, 22 points off the bench, and then the very next game he's giving you like 5. Guys like Sam Hauser, Neemias Queta, those are guys that you've anticipated they were going to have to take on. Queta is a part of the front court issues with the Celtics. Like they brought in guys like Luka Garza to man the 5. Queta, he's been decent for the Celtics, averaging 9 points and around 8 rebounds a game. That doesn't tell the whole story. In short, he's the product of a backup big getting starter level minutes. And even then, there's been times where the Celtics have been bullied on the rebounding front. You lose the rebounding battle, that means it's probably more offensive rebounding, more open shots for guys, second chance points, and that whole thing adds more wear and tear on your team and your defense. And of course, when somebody like Jason Tatum comes back, he will be able to help in the rebounding department. It's more about rebounding by committee in a sense, but going up against teams, Houston, one of the biggest teams in the NBA, they have a rebound differential of 12. Sam Hauser, he's looked bad. He's shooting the lowest percentage from 3 in his career. He's been a career 41% three-point shooter, and he's shooting under 30% anywhere inside the 3-point line. And he was somebody that I would have looked at, I think many others would have looked at as the guy to slot in the starting lineup for Jason Tatum. And I was somebody who thought he was going to be one of those guys that were having a career year, or somebody who's going to be able to benefit from the expanded role, and he went in the opposite direction. The scene where you can get out of some of these young guys that are on the team. You see Jordan Walsh. I'm so happy to see Jordan Walsh get some consistent playing time and inserted into the Celtic rotation. He has been able to at least contribute. I know Trey hasn't thought very highly of Jordan Walsh. He's somebody that I would hope he would be able to mold into some type of 3-and-D guy, and I think that's what the Celtics are at least trying to do with him. Jaylen Brown came out and said that he personally talked to Joe Mazzulla to give Jordan Walsh a bigger of a role in terms of defending the team's best players. I do hope in that sense Jordan Walsh continues to get opportunities to be able to contribute on this team and get consistent playing time. He's not going to be 22 until March, so he has plenty of time to develop. And this is kind of how the Celtics have always went with their prospects. Really not named Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, those guys. These other guys like Hauser and Pritchard, Jordan Walsh now, and even Rob Williams when he was here. Those guys all were kind of a slow burn. Like the first couple of seasons don't really see a whole lot of rotation minutes or anything like that. But then around that third, maybe fourth season, those guys really start getting consistent playing time. And especially in today's NBA economy, you kind of have to find those diamonds in the rough. And I'm not saying Jordan Walsh is there yet. I'm hoping he's on the path to doing so. And I hope he can kind of live up to what people were anticipating him out of college being able to do for the Celtics, being that guy who can guard the team's best players and be able to knock down threes on occasion. And the thing I was hoping for the Celtics this season is overall just to be competitive. Try your best to see what you got. I don't think this was a throwaway year. I think this is still just a year of experimenting and retooling. You have young guys on the team like Walsh, Minot, and a couple other guys. Give Jaylen Brown the opportunity to show why he's one of the best players in the league and really try to iron out the rest of the roster. Keeping games competitive, they really have only had the one bad loss, and that was against the Rockets. But to be fair, the Rockets were well rested, and the Celtics were coming off a back-to-back. But then losing to the Jazz is not ideal. Losing by 1 against the Sixers opening night wasn't ideal. Losing to the Nets not too long ago was not the best light either. But going into this next game against the Pistons on Wednesday, the Celtics are 4-1 in their last 5 games. Jaylen Brown playing very, very good basketball at the moment. Winning the games that I feel like even now they still should be winning, beating the Grizzlies, the Clippers, beating the Wizards by a ton, but also beating teams like the Cavs. Like they can, as long as you can remain competitive with those teams that are looked at as better units than you, like the Cavs, the Knicks, those are going to be the important matchups I look at when it comes to the Celtics season. Toronto Raptors are 12-5. What the fuck? And who knows? Maybe the Celtics have something up their sleeve going into the rest of the season. The trade deadline, either move off of Simons or potentially try to bring somebody in. Who knows? Because the Celtics do need help in the front court for sure. Yeah, the Celtics, I would say, are in a good spot, all things considered. The fact that they are even hanging around a playing spot with some of their guys not playing their best basketball, like Derek White especially, and you see that Peyton Pritchard could be playing better. Jaylen Brown is probably playing the best basketball of his career right now. I think the Celtics, they can even maintain this pace. The Celtics are going to be just fine the rest of the season. All in all, it just makes me more and more excited for Jason Tatum to come back. You guys let me know, Celtics Nation, how you guys feeling about the Celtics team right now? How are you guys feeling about the NBA season so far as a whole? The Toronto Raptors being 12-5 are definitely not on my NBA bingo card. Let me know how you guys feel about the Celtics this year. But with all that being said, guys, that's going to do it for me, and I'll see you guys in the next one. The world has never been more entangled with gambling. What used to be a taboo topic that could get your kneecap stolen by the mob or some shit is now plastered across NBA arenas, baseball broadcasts, and even team partnerships. I think I may have a solution, and said solution is curated by the engine of Vendetta Sports Media with Vendetta Fantasy Contest. VFC offers the, quote, non-alcoholic beer alternative to gambling. It gives fans the rush of picking spreads and money line totals without the risk of losing your hard-earned money that Mikal Bridges was going to take away from you after placing that 15-leg parlay for $5. You can use that same $5 instead of chasing payouts, and users compete for pride, rankings, and community bragging rights. You can challenge friends or join a public contest, all while testing your sports knowledge in a safe, regulated, and legal environment. VFC is built around responsible competition. It captures the excitement of predicting outcomes without the addiction-forming dopamine cycles that come with traditional betting apps, where the remorse of losing is all too familiar. At a time when gambling stories are dominating headlines for the wrong reasons, platforms like Vendetta Fantasy Contest can be the bridge between entertainment and ethics. With your help, view it as your sportsbooks meeting your favorite fantasy sports apps, bundled into one safe haven, free of the risks that these alternatives fail to protect you from. If you go to the Vendetta Fantasy Contest website and you enter this promo code, you will be able to get started for absolutely free. Definitely want to take advantage of, because this won't last forever. Vendetta Fantasy Contest is the future, and we would love for you guys to be a part of it. Vendetta Fantasy Contest could be the model for what fan engagement looks like in 2025 and beyond.